Another question, of course, a basic question to all this is mobility. And a strong point has to be made that mobility cannot be understood primarily as the mobility of cultural goods. I mean, it's very nice to have here a beautiful exhibition of Matisse. I would love to. But this is not the question. The question is whether Portuguese painters could freely and willfully go to Slovenia, or whether German musicians will come gladly to Spain. This is much more important in terms of mobility than the mobility of cultural goods. So this point has to be clearly stressed. And many proposals and many ideas, I won't go into the detail, I'll detail them, some of them in the final report, go in that sense. Mobility has to be understood in the sense of the human mobility. And this is, there was even a proposal to create grants for individuals to go from one place to another. Well, okay, this is clearly more than the very specific idea of creating a system of grants. I think the mood is in the sense that we have to generate, we have to make it more flexible in the sense that we have to create possibilities of individual mobility, which by the end of the day will produce an outcome, a positive outcome in the sense of intercultural dialogue and perceptions. Finally, a point on the need, the urgent need to follow step by step the next steps. In the sense, for instance, the European Year for Intercultural Dialogue on one hand, the dialogue, the structured dialogue proposed by Sabine between the cultural actors and the political powers. So there's a feeling that, okay, this is a very nice starting point. That's a feeling because you suggest it to be adopted. But what is to be done needs the participation, the active and coordinated participation of all different sectors in a rather transversal perspective, not only the strict cultural operators, but one has to see that actually culture pervades all social life. So in that sense, that approach is absolutely urgent, and I think there is a difficult task here. It has to be conveyed to the ministers of culture themselves, individually. It's not easy. Sometimes it's not very easy, but it has to be conveyed, that feeling. These are some of the main guidelines I would like to get into. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my notes, because of course we'll follow these points that have been tackled by Chris, the necessity of meeting spaces, the transnational networking, and so on. Extremely important to my understanding, the extremely important idea that in intercultural dialogue, or the concept of intercultural dialogue, should be open in the sense to encompass, for instance, intergenerational dialogue, which is extremely important now and in the decades to come, even more so. I hope, my personal, I hope to have an intercultural dialogue with my grandchildren. And so, but this is an important point which has been made. I think we didn't go into the detail, and Chris has already pointed out this question. We didn't go into detail in one question that is nevertheless one of the questions of the communication, which is the participation and access. This is basic, but I don't think, I'm sorry, I don't think I'll be able to go into that point in the final report, because I think we actually didn't tackle this subject properly and in depth as it naturally deserves, because as someone stressed yesterday, it's very nice to produce beautiful works of art, but then if you don't communicate and we don't get to the people, it's interesting, but maybe it's useless. This is a point to discuss, whether it's useless or not. We didn't get into the detail. I don't think we have the time now to get into it. So this is a point I don't think I'll be able to address a conclusion on this point. Maybe one workshop should be strictly dedicated to this point, which is basic, of course, in the development of this cultural process. I'm sorry, I've just made a few notes on what I understood, on what I intend to report, unless you say me, no, shut up, you won't report at all. And I quite welcome your comments and now criticisms on this point, and maybe suggestions to add a few points more. Thank you.
Okay.